Hello, and welcome to Flashback, episode 7, and this is August 2000. And it's me, RGT, and joined, as always, by the delectable, the gaming god, the collector, the dulcet tones from Lincolnshire that you always hear on the UCP. It's the stunning George. How are you, George?
What? How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm great. Ready to. I submerged myself in the era last night, so I'm here to get ready to talk about it.
I must admit, your levels of research goes above and beyond. Because whenever I give you a draft or whenever I give you what year we're doing, you're up in that loft, you are pulling out consoles, you're
I am.
pulling out games, you just buried in them in the dark living room, playing what was out on that month. So yeah, I must hand it to you. Your research is pretty impressive.
I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah, but you know everything about August 2000.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I know. I remember the bird from Grandia II's name.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, that's going to be interesting to talk about that because I want to chat about that game. But yeah, so like I said, this is August 2000. If you haven't listened to Flashback before, and this is your first one. This is similar to a premise to what we do with our main show, the Unofficial Controller podcast. But we literally take it from a random month of a random year. Last time we done 2003, I believe, was September 2003. And yeah, and we will literally take what we would have been playing in that month, bit of news that was coming out in that month. We finish up with what we'd been hoping to play, what was coming out around that time. Yeah, so it's just a little window, a little look back. To what would have been going on in them days, and it's just that little nostalgia trip because especially these times, me and George are playing plenty of games in this era, and yeah, some you forget, some you remember, and yeah, like we always say with flashback, games you loved, the stories you forgot. But yeah, let's have a look, George. Let's jump straight into what we would have been planning this month. It's quite a random selection, actually. Um, Now, I'm going to start with what was out. This was out in July, so just before Sydney 2000. Now, the reason I say Sydney 2000 is because um, my sister was out in Australia at the time, living out there. So I always remember I didn't actually play the game, but she did bring me back some Sydney 2000 merch. But I believe you probably played this game, didn't you, George?
It's not on the list, but I think yeah. I had a bit of independent research, and I do remember getting this for Dreamcast. And look,
Oh,
I wasn't.
Dreamcast, you had this on.
Yeah, I wasn't able to find my copy of it. I don't know if I've rebought it in the modern era. I maybe did out of nostalgia. I'm not sure, but I mean, when this game came out, obviously Dreamcast was the upper threshold of console power. It was quite the looker. It was quite fun. Obviously, you and I'd grown up on games like the Olympics games, the button
International
basher
Track and
games,
Field and
International Track and Field, and the winter equivalent version. And then through history, there's been quite a few like Olympics games. I think there was the Lilyhammer 92 got a pretty decent game on Mega Drive or probably all 16-bit consoles. Obviously, PlayStation launch with its international track and field, or around the launch window from memory of that. That was a really fun game for a button basher. And Sydney 2000 basically took all of those sort of historic gameplay tropes, mashed them up with a real kind of at the time modern sort of fresh, realistic looking graphical style, sort of painted it all in the Olympics colours. And the Olympic 2000 in Sydney had like that real fresh kind of like logo to it and all that. And that all just represented itself in a really kind of a fun little game. It wasn't the best sports game ever, but it was one that I have some fond memories for. I
yeah,
think
because you
there's
don't really get them. You don't really seem to get Olympic games now, do you? But that seemed to be the
no
rage
Mario and
then.
Sonic seem to have completely sort of co-opted that.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I, but I remember that used to be. I mean, you look back now and you think Olympic Games, that's just going to be shovelware and bits and pieces, but they actually used to be pretty decent, pretty good fun games. I remember when.
Yeah, th this one did benefit from styling itself around international track and field quite a bit in terms of how you interacted with the game.
Mm.
So a lot of the soft edges had been rounded off by all these amazing games that had sort of served their time in the arcade and at home, on home systems, and then sort of Sydney 2000 was able just to lift those, well, 90% of those mechanics and lay them in. If one thing that sticks in my mind, there was a diving element and possibly a gymnastics element, which was
Oh,
done.
really?
Yeah, I
That's
think
unusual.
so. Hey, listen, messaging if I've got this wrong, but I think there was a diving and gymnastics section which was done through the medium of this was the spirit of the time, RGT, a dance rhythm game input system.
Oh,
QTEs, for want of a
so a lot
better
of
remember.
timed button rhythm,
Yeah,
you know.
it's like, okay, so you jump off, you diving board, and it's left, left, up, down, circle, green, triangle, whatever it is. Like, beep,
Oh,
beep, diddly, doo, 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 bing, doosh. And I think the
okay.
gymnastics was, I think it descended the screen like DDR or one of those dance games where it kind of, then you timed it in and I don't know if it affected the animation at all, but you certainly got rated, I think, on how accurate you were and your timings, etc.
Well, it's quite nice they mixed up the the different genres and the different game styles and gameplay tropes as you played through the game. So that's
Yeah,
quite,
agreed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. No, I was always interested in that because, like I say, my sister was out in Australia at the time and was around when the Olympics was going on and sent me some merch back and bits, but I never did play the games. I was always quite interested in. I kept wondering whether to get a copy. I think I did. Was it did it come out on PS2 or was it PS1 that was out?
It would have been PS1, and I
Mm.
don't know if it did actually get. I don't know. It got some strange releases that I don't remember seeing it on anything else. But I was locked in the Dreamcast ecosystem, and
Well, that's what
I,
made me think is when I remember when I was researching this and saw the cover, that made me think of the Dreamcast case because I'm sure I've seen that Dreamcast.
yeah, it's quite. It was quite put out on that. To be fair,
Mm.
it was. What other games do you want to talk about,
Well,
RGT?
there's one because I know you've played this, and this game's always interested me for various reasons, and that's Grandia II. And the reason I've always been sort of intrigued by this game because everyone seems to always rate the Grandia games, but
Mm.
they never seem to be that expensive to buy. They're never like a really high priced JRPG, which is always that's always I found it strange, And but then again, I suppose you can say that for the early Final Fantasy on PS1s, they've you can still buy them quite reasonably. They're not that expensive, so maybe
No,
this is
that's
just a
right. Well, this game again, I was in the Dreamcast ecosystem. I was a fully paid up member of the Dreamcast magazine. Got every copy. I've rebought every copy since. I know. I love that magazine. I love this era of gaming. To be fair,
oh, it's fantastic,
it was
fantastic.
quite exclusive to me because no one else. I couldn't convince anyone else to buy a Dreamcast bar. This lad at work who just played like This Is Football or whatever it was called on his. The Dreamcast had like a couple of specific sports games, football
Mm.
games because they didn't have the franchise because of EA. So they were like UEFA and something else. So he'd just constantly play that, and I was like, "Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried Metropolis Street Racer? Have you played Shenmue? Have you played Headhunter? Have you played Crazy Taxi? Have you played 18 Wheeler? Have you played Power Stone? Have you played this? Have you played that? Have you played Sega Bass Fishing? Have you played this? Have you played House of the Dead?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 no." Right, fine. Anyway, in one of these moments, I find myself reading about in previews of Grandia 2, and then Grandia 2 coming. I do believe it probably was a Dreamcast exclusive at the time, or maybe got a concurrent release
I
in the
think you're right. It was
countries where the
at least a
PS
timed one, wasn't it? It was a
a
timed.
1000%. Now, because we didn't have the PS2 in Europe at this time, I wonder if it globally launched in Japan and possibly US as maybe like a launch title or something. I haven't done the research. And anyway, my knowledge of it is the Dreamcast version. It's one hell of a looker. I played it yesterday, maybe the first 20 minutes,
Oh,
and
good,
it
brilliant.
did. Um, like straight away, the things that I remembered were the voice actor for your main character, the Geohound. He is voiced by the guy who did Leonardo in the original 80s TMNT show.
Oh, really?
So if you've got like any nostalgia for that, you'll be like, hang on, I know this voice. And I remember when I first played it, so it was a bit closer to the 90s,
I'll just
but it
say
was still a
this
head
is why
scratcher.
you're on the show.
Is that right?
Release facts.
And I remember at the time being sort of confused, but the access, no one had filled out the internet with a voice cast of Turtles in 2000, mate. No
No.
one had bothered at that point, but they have now. And so I was like, oh, I reckon that is Leo. Last night I was reminded and confirmed it's definitely him. So some of the more chunkier scenes are all voice acted, which feels nice. The rest of the
But that
time,
is good because you got to remember in this era, I mean, you look at like the
don't
early.
go all in on that. It's not all of it though.
No, but what I mean is if you look at like Resident Evil when that first came out on the PlayStation, it was just literally the directors and stuff, just and the devs doing the voices and really bad acting. It
Oh, I
hadn't
see.
voice
Yeah.
acting had it was only then coming into its foray really,
Well,
as proper.
it's these cartoon uh, voice actors really
Mm.
that are the perfect foil in my mind for
Yeah, no,
video
and then sort of
games.
spilling into the
Yeah,
video
like the
game
people that
genre.
have they're professional voice actors. They've never been in front of a camera. They've used their
Mm.
voice to voice animated characters, and to me, that seems like the perfect foil
Mm.
for a
Definitely,
video
yeah,
game developer. Like this
yeah.
guy knows how to bring an inanimate object to life. Now, voice actors for cartoons, they're kind of a little bit over exuberant, aren't they? But that does bring life into the character.
Mm.
Anyway, this particular dude is meant to be this. He's almost like a monster hunter, stroke witcher in this Grandia universe. Plays a bit badass, but he's just a young lad, really. And he's got this parrot. What the hell? He's got this hawk with him called Sky, who's like one of your party as well. He can talk. He interacts with you. He's quite gruff. The thing that sticks with me, and I watched the intro video yesterday, and it reminded me that there's this big catastrophe where the kind of Earth gets rendered apart, and I think it's called the Great Divide. This sort of stretch of land, and the first chunk of the Dreamcast game or Grandia II is getting to the Great Divide and then getting over it. Um, and you meet some great characters along the way. I would say that Grandia II is probably playing it very recently. It's a bit more of a. It's definitely a product of its time, but it does hold up. And the reason why it holds up is the battle menu. It's one of my favorites, to be fair.
Sort of turn based, is it?
It is turn-based, 1000%. That you have these little sliders at the bottom. It's a little bit like the Final Fantasy 13 battle system. That you race, you've got a little pictogram of your face, and there's like little pictograms of the enemies, and you both kind of, depending on your stats, you both race across this little timeline at the bottom of the screen. Whoever hits action first gets to strike first. If
Oh, okay.
you sort of if you get positioned right and surprise your opponent on the map screen, for want of a better word, or the navigation screen, you do end up with what's called like an advantage. So you do start off the slider a bit further up,
Hmm.
and then when you make your move, you're back to the beginning of the slider. Now, if you decide to do like a power move, your from action to implementation takes quite a long time. That's the leveler of the system. Whereas if you're just doing straight attacks, you can be quite back up to the top of the feed each time. So you can be
Ah,
launching your
that's a
simple
clever system
attacks.
then.
It makes it feel. I remember at the time when I got this, I was not a JRPG player. I've been brought up in like the Zelda world and sort of Western
Mm.
developed games a little bit more. So I always kind of bounced off JRPGs a little bit. But this one was the one that kind of sort of went, no, 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 no. It's all right. Come on.
So that sort
Sit
of risk reward system, isn't it?
sit
Do you
down next
risk
to
for
me,
the power
son.
hit or
It's not all just pause screens and now I yearn for a very static, very old school, leave it on attack, like leave it on my choice window for 20 minutes if you want.
mm,
I don't want to be rushed.
mm.
But there was something about my youth and enthusiasm that made this quite appealing to me. And I have to say, when I look back on the Dreamcast, I remember Grandia 2 in not quite the same level, but definitely in the same pantheon as something like Skies of Arcadia.
Mm.
So if you haven't tried Grandia 2, give it a go. It's quite fun. There's a little bit of an innocence to it that I always quite enjoyed. It's kind of got this youthful kind of sort of naive edge to it. It's got that kind of escapism to it, which is
Hmm.
quite nice. But it's on PlayStation 2 now. It's readily available, I'd imagine, most places, and
Yeah,
definitely
I don't
grab
believe
it
it's
off
very
eBay.
expensive from what I
No, I
remember.
don't think. I never looked at the price, to be fair, and I've had this PlayStation 2 version in my collection a long time, and obviously up in the loft. I want to speak for the PS2 box art's kind of one thing, not really one thing or the other, quite boring actually. But the Dreamcast box art, from my memory, was stunning.
Yes,
Uh, s-
£10 PS2. So
is that
CX,
right?
£10. Yeah,
Which is lofty-ish for a PS2 title. So if you're thinking of grabbing it, I would say grab it now. I think £10 is a fair price. Actually, you would definitely get some enjoyment out of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
While we're here, though, RGT, I mean, I want to give a quick shout out to Railroad Tycoon 2,
I was going to
which I
ask whether
believe
I thought that was something you would have played, and that's always quite intrigued me. The
is that
Railroad
I would
Tycoon
say
game.
we're seeing this here like this in this moment because this is the Dreamcast 2 release,
Hmm.
which I have, which I enjoy. I'm a big Railroad Tycoon fan. My dad's an even bigger Railroad Tycoon fan. I think I've talked before about he's putting a probably at 2 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. He's trying to do a double rail extension around Gloucester. And I'm like, oh, Dad, please. I liked this when I was a kid. I liked it because it was like a train set on your computer that you could play with, and it was fun for that. Dad obviously took it to the next level with the business elements of it and needed the most profitable rail company in the UK. And do you know what? Railroad Tycoon is cool because it does take you from like Stephenson's rocket and those early fledgling sort of rail experiments all the
Mm,
way through to like electrified trains if you wanted to. So you run the whole timeline.
yeah.
And it's not just passengers, you have to organise little line extensions to woods to build a lumber yard to be able to make that city bigger to get more passenger revenue. There's like coal mines, and then there
Ah, okay.
becomes
It's
power
quite in depth
stations. So
then.
you're trying
Yeah.
to get the power to the coal, power to the port, power to the factories, power to this, power to that. So yeah, honestly, mate, there's a lot going on in that game that you could just play it just for fun, but then the other elements of it, like the business elements of it, are amazing.
Mm.
It looks a bit weird now, and there are many different versions of it. I think there's the next evolution from this was a game called Transport Tycoon, still based on the isometric grid, but you could use planes, trains, buses, lorries, um, air, ships, ferries,
Yeah, because
every
I've
mode of transport was available, hence the name.
yeah, I think there's a lot of spiritual successor that I've seen on the Switch that Switch Up talk about quite often. That looks quite good, but I can't remember the name of it for the love of me. I can't remember the name of the
I think
game,
there's
but
a few of these kicking around. I think there's one called Railroad Empire, which is pretty
that
good.
might be the one I'm thinking of. I
I've
think.
played it on PS4, PS5, it'd be on as
Okay.
well. I think there's a Railroad Empires too. Not many of them hit as hard as that OG. It was just very simplified, but the mechanics
Mm.
behind it were
I always
high.
remember seeing it on a PC at the time as well. You always saw them PC disc cases with Railroad Tycoon on it. Seemed to be quite a big PC title at the time, and I know them sort of games. I sort of dabbled with a bit of Sim City back in the day, but them sort of games have never really struck with me. But Railroad Tycoon, whenever I've seen trailers of it, I've always thought, oh, I quite like the idea of building a railway and a
I mean,
settlement.
there's
And
a big community built around the system got opened up, and I think it's called Open TTL. So Transport Tycoon or Transport Tycoon Legacy, I think it might be. But that sort of basic game is out there, I think, to be played in browsers and all
oh
sorts.
wow,
So
okay,
yeah, get into that. I mean, I've just pumped up a game that isn't Railroad Tycoon 2, but I would equally also pump up Railroad Tycoon 2 as
yeah.
well. They're very interlinked, to be fair.
Um, one
Give me some grits about what you're into.
Well, I say this isn't so much what I'm into, but I have a lot of memories of this game. Tenchu 2. This was out in August 2000. And the reason is, my best mate. I remember we were playing on the OG PlayStation back in the day, and he just said he was playing this game, and it was so quiet and so still. And I was like, "What are you playing?" He's like, "Oh, Tenchu. It's all just stealth content," and that's what got him into the stealth genre. And I'd
Mm.
sit and watch him play Tenchu going across these rooftops. I mean, you look at the original Tenchu now, and you go back, and it's a hard sell. It's a rough looking game, but it's the PS1 era, and you'd go across the rooftops. He'd drop down behind this bloke with his samurai sword back up on
Yeah.
the roof, and he was just a master at it. And Tenchu 2, he absolutely loved these games, mastered them to a T. I mean, he didn't get caught once, and that is one of the first times, other than sort of the Metal Gear era, that I'd seen stealth and I knew of stealth as a genre. And I think the Tenchu games are very underrated. People don't never talk about them much within that genre of
I had a
game.
similar friend at work who was big into Tenchu, and I looked at it and couldn't make head nor arseholes of it, if I'm honest with you. But I think you're right. PS1, it is a tough sell now.
Yeah,
It's got an iconic sort of boxy 3D look to it, which you could argue doesn't hold up. It kind of looks like someone's gone a little bit crazy in Minecraft at times, done it, Tenchu 1?
it does. But it's got that. I mean, you got to remember where we came from. We come from 2D
Oh,
side scrolling
yeah, mate.
platformers to an actual 3D plane where you
I'm
were
not here
getting
to
on
kick
rooftops.
Tenchu at all. I'm
No,
just
no, no.
preparing a
You're right.
modern
But
audience for a landing that
exactly,
might
no,
look a
and
bit
I agree
grim.
with you. It is a tough sell nowadays. But back in the day, it was the height of tech, but also it was a genre I'd never really heard of, because we
I
were
think,
used to playing R-Type, or we were used to doing run and gun games like Gunstar Heroes and things like that. To suddenly say, no, 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 you don't do that. Everything has to
yeah.
be quiet and stealth, and you have to be, and it's like, whoa, hang on, this is different. And it
I'd
was
say
great.
if you haven't got patience, though, you will think this is the worst game on earth.
Exactly. Stealth, I mean, I didn't like stealth for years, really, for me playing. I liked watching my mate play him because he was very good at them until Assassin's Creed's. Um, and he even got me. He was the same guy who got me into Assassin's Creed, and I
So,
thought,
like, look, mate, I don't like stealth, but I like Assassin's Creed. I think that tells you everything you need to know about its
exactly,
stealth
exactly,
techniques.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, Tenchu, that was full on stealth, and yeah, I just remember watching him play those and just thinking, oh, I could do that, and then you get spotted in the first 10 seconds. I think, yeah, he's actually quite good at this game because I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Get caught
One of
shimmy
my
up a drain pipe.
takeaways is because it's always at night, you've got this inky black sort of surround of the level from memory. The buildings kind of fade out the blackness. There's a lot of running around on roofs. I think there's my memory is ninja stars and as you say, jumping down, thinking you're going to surprise them, but then the guard turns around and just is like, "Ugh." Like,
Yeah,
oh, what am
yeah,
I doing so wrong? It's a game that on the back of the box fills your mind with years of promise,
yeah.
and then you put the game in, and it's like, okay, and it's that classic phrase of "get good."
Yeah, and the thing you're exactly right with that because the thing I remember about the game is he knew the layout of each map, and that's what you needed to know. You went through the room, they had them sliding Japanese doors, so you
Yes,
you knew if you went through that door, that guy's
yeah,
facing the other way. So you slide through, slide the door back, out you go up the roof, round the other side, over a window. There's that guy, he's facing the other way. So you had to learn the routine, and that was trial and error until you
mm,
mastered. So there was still that you're not going to go in straight away and just master this game. It was get good at it. But when you did get good, it was impressive to watch how he used to slide
yes,
round the koi
thousands.
pond, then back in the lilies. Brilliant.
I might stick that on later. I've got it, and I didn't think to put it on. To be fair,
Yeah, yeah.
what else
So,
What else have you got memories from? Because
now
I've
another
seen a
one I
couple
was
in here I'd love to talk about.
another one. Now this triggered me when I saw this when I was
So that
researching
was
this game.
Tenchu 2 you were talking about.
Tenchu 2, yeah. Now another one that triggered, and I can't hardly remember, but Action Bass on the PlayStation. I'm sure I bought and played this because I was a big Sega bass fishing fan, and I'm sure I bought this, and from what I remember, that was quite good fun.
What Real Fishing 4?
No,
2?
Action Bass on the original PlayStation.
So I
Or
see Real Fishing's in here as well, which I also had.
yeah, I don't remember playing Real Fishing, but Action Bass, I'm sure I did, and there was a bit of that early 2000s. There was a bit of a thing for the fishing game, which I think Sega Bass Fishing had brought to the fore with the
Yeah,
Dreamcast.
1000%. Yeah.
And it sort of struck on, and I think I went through a bit of a stage of buying fishing games, and for me, I think these fishing games are good fun. They were always quite cheap, but also I think the good thing was they were good if they had the multiplayer. When you're on your own, they
Mm.
weren't quite so much fun. But if you had your mate on the couch and you were sitting there and seeing who could catch the biggest fish in that, they had their place in game and they were good fun. And I'm sure I remember. I don't even know if I
Mate,
still
my
got.
biggest gripe with fishing games is I don't want to lure fish all the time.
Yes, it is the American bass fishing way, and sometimes you want it was and I think they done that because I think they thought the attention span of a game
It's
was a
an
bit short. As
arcadey
quick fishing, yeah,
experience, isn't it? Yeah,
quick
you've always
cast
got to
in,
be pressing a button to
yeah,
reel it in. Yeah, it's not until more modern games, like some of the more fishing simulators, can you actually throw a float out and watch it,
yeah,
which to
yeah.
me is fishing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There was that. It was all bass stuff, wasn't it? It was all
Yeah,
American bass fishing at the time. Drive your speedboat out, cast, reel in, rip his head off, bang, go, next fish.
exactly
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, good fun at the
And with
time. And
the Dreamcast Sega Bass Fishing Reel, that was kind of fun because you had a rotary dial, but hammering X is garbage.
yeah, and it was also, you don't realise as well how precise those Sega bass fishing rods were. They were good because you were reeling, and it was quite responsive. When you're on the X button, you're trying to balance that. You've got no pressure sensitive. That's on or off, so you're a bit.
Agreed.
It is quite harder to do. There was one on here I was going to ask you about. I don't know if you played. This was a Dreamcast game called Deep Fighter. Have you played that?
Yeah, I've played Deep
I've never
Fighter.
heard of this.
It's basically Wing Commander under the water in a submarine. My memory
No,
of it's a little hazy. I bought it second time round in my retro phase. I bought it OG concurrent Dreamcast. I had loads of Dreamcast games. And then I bought it again nostalgically, really, to backfill to the
no.
collection that I had.
This intrigues me. This one.
I think
So,
that if you like Wing Commander,
yeah, I
G
do. Yeah.
Police, any of those sorts of games, it will definitely appeal to you. Imagine that in a mashup with like Sequest DSV. I can't remember the full story, and I'm not wikiing it to cheat, but I think sort of humanity's kind of living under the sea now for some reason.
Mm,
Resources are scarce, blah 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 blah, and you go out in these missions. If you're looking for something on the Dreamcast that's got that vibe to it, this is definitely there. I think because it's a submarine, you've obviously got the 3D movement, so it feels. This is why it always reminded me of like Wing Commander and games like that. I had some fun with it. If it's the game that I remember from memory that I'm talking about, I had some fun with it, but it didn't overstay its welcome because there was just so much other good stuff to play on the Dreamcast that I just would rather slap in Crazy Taxi than Deep Fryer 3000, if I'm honest with you.
yeah, and also I suppose there is a lot of with your colony wars and your wing commanders. Um,
G
what
Police,
G Police? What was the other one? Starfighter 3000 or something. There was a. Um,
maybe,
I did
yeah.
have one on a Saturn. Oh, I can never. I always get muddled up. But there was a lot of these almost space sim sort of. You know,
Yeah, we
I
need
know
an
this is
excuse to
underwater,
let
but
them sort of screw around in 3D shooting other flying things, and
mm,
it definitely felt like that. But if you've got a Dreamcast, you're locked in like the Sega ecosystem, this would be kind of a high point for you, I think.
mm, yeah, yeah, very interesting. Also see that ISS Pro Evolution Soccer 2 was out. This is when it was then starting to gain ground before it went over to, well, it was then going over to Pro Evo. But
Yeah,
yeah, I remember first installment. I've spoken about this on the show before and sort of being a bit blown away about it. And this was when I started getting onto the hype train of, Pro Evo and the old Konami games. And yeah, that was when it was really starting to take over a bit then, I think.
tell me about Colin McRae too.
Well, again, I don't think people speak about Colin McRae enough. There'd been various rally games and games that, in their different guises, had rally events in them. Um, and I think everyone thought when the first Colin McRae game came out, they just thought, oh, it's just a licensed game. They just bought his name and it's going to be a crap game. It actually turned out to be a good series. Obviously, went
Prior
on
to
to
this,
be
we had like
Dirt.
Network Rally Q games on the Amiga and ST.
Yeah.
This was, as you say, it could have been throwaway. Let's talk about the first Colin McRae first of all. It
Mm.
could have been throwaway. Actually, was very realistic. You had the
Very
different
good.
adhesion
Very
systems
good.
underneath you in terms of like how it felt to be riding on gravel, mud, ice. Obviously, ice was your classic ice level, but you know, um, and that game kind of blew everybody away. Put Codemasters on the map in terms of, you know, they'd been doing Toka and other bits and bobs, but certainly planted them on the map as like an automotive simulator. And then two landed, and two's box art alone
Mm.
must have shipped 1 million copies because
It,
that sort of light blue with the cars
mm,
on the front and that simple Colin McRae 2.0 font. I mean,
yeah,
mwah, mwah.
yeah, and it made it suddenly look, almost different from the rest. It looked professional. Do you know what I mean? It
It
looked
did.
like, when you sort of looked at that box, you think, this is actually a bit different. This,
It looked fresh. It looked clean. It looked
yeah,
separate from the noise that you would see. I think
it's
the
not your
original
standard art.
Yeah, your original Colin McRae was a great big picture of his Subaru.
Mm,
This was like little pictures, four little pictures across the front from memory of like
mm,
maybe his Focus or something.
yeah,
But basically, you've got this real nice, almost metallic baby blue with this really
yeah.
clean white like writing on it. I don't know what font it is, but they
The
needed to
thing,
do nothing else.
do you know what always reminds me of these games as well? I used to love Sega Rally in the arcade, love Sega Rally on Dreamcast and Saturn and its various different guises. And it was like my first bowling. You had bumper rails. If you hit the side, you just slowed up.
Yeah.
I went into this the same, went straight into a tree, damaged the car. And thought, whoa, hold on, this is no, this isn't arcade now, is it? I need
No.
to think about these corners. I just don't go in full throttle every corner trying to drift. If you're drifting too much, you're losing time.
Mm,
And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. And then you have to get over to you get the markers at the end, get over. And I just thought, I remember the sounds of the beeps when you went. And I thought, this is proper rally, actually. Because I was quite into rally at the time as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I actually, um, I wish I had it done at the time, but later on, about 2004, 5, Mrs. RGT's from Cumbria, and she wasn't far from M Sport that done the rally cars for Ford, and she got me a day there going round, and Colin McRae's Focus was in there. I got a
What,
picture of him.
the building with the track at the back of it?
Yes, yeah,
I've
yeah.
been there. I've been round on that track as well.
Dovenby Hall, Dovenby Hall in Cumbria.
Yeah, I think that's where I went to.
Yeah, I went and looked round all the rally cars and how
Got a
they do
load
the
of
rally
rally
stuff.
cars lined up in like a white shed. It's like
Yes,
a big metallic modern looking building
yeah,
attached to like an
yeah.
old
Off an old,
hall or something.
yeah, it's an old hospital, Dovenby Hall. It's an old hospital. Yeah,
That's
Malcolm
it.
Wilson owns it. Yeah, he runs M Sport, and always amazed me as well. I know we're going off piece a bit. When you went in, everything was pure white, like surgery. The cars are all on
Yes.
axle stands. And I said to the guy, he said, "Any questions?" I said, "So when new trainees come in, what's the first thing they do?" He said, "They have to paint all their spanners white, and we check them at the end of the day." And I was like, no way. It's like surgery. But
Yeah.
he said, you get a grain of dirt in a gearbox, that could cost you a world championship. And I was like, fair enough. But yeah, brilliant. And they
They
had,
had, I think from memory, when I was there, they had like an RS 2000 and other bits. They had
yeah,
some of McRae's bits and bobs there as well. So it's a special
yeah,
place.
yeah, it's special. And his focus from off on the front
Not
there was
open
in
to the
there.
public though, by the way.
No, no, you can do tours. I don't know if they do it nowadays, but you could do tours at the time, but they checked you for cameras and you weren't allowed to take certain pictures and bits in
That's
only certain
correct.
areas
Yeah.
because of obviously if you're in the world championship bit where they're obviously competing, they don't want pictures getting out of what they're doing and of their sort of work and that on the cars. But yeah, very interesting. And it always reminds me because of that focus on the front of Colin McRae 2.0. But yeah, great game, way ahead of its time.
Colin McRae 2.0 was one of those games where they actually used the in-game graphics on the front of a magazine, or you opened it up to the review and it was a spill of the in-game graphics because
Very true.
they were good enough,
Yeah.
which is not true for every game in this era. So that
No.
was nice, and that was one thing I remember the Dreamcast magazine in that era. They weren't shy of putting close to game graphics on the front cover because it was like,
Mm.
wow.
And also, I think you got to think this is when people started realizing Codemasters knew how to make a driving game.
That's what I'm
Because
saying. I think it put them on the map as those
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, any other games you want to talk about? I see what Final Fantasy. Is that
Yeah, listen,
nine?
I
Was
popped
that
nine back in the tray last night just for some fun. Played the opening minutes, where you do the
sort of in that
what's
town, sort of village
yeah,
area?
you
You're in?
perform the opera for them, don't
That's
you?
it.
You
Yes. Yeah.
you do like a little sword fight, which is like a QTE, and you get rated. Do you want to do it
Mm.
again? Because the Queen wasn't impressed. Like yes, and in the end, I was like, no, I'm not doing it again. Um, but that whole, from the minute it starts, what I would say about nine is it just reeks just cuteness, niceness, fun, friendly. There is an element of danger there, but at the same token, it's just wrapped up in this really nice universe. It's airships and steampunk and fantasy, and
Mm.
it really like Final Fantasy VII. I know it has its lovers, but it's really hard-edged sort of future design. You're in these buildings, you fight in these corporations. It's all very serious.
Yeah.
You move to eight, and it's a love story set in like this futuristic world of like, and again, it's very future, very Gunblade, I think is the shtick of eight. And then you get to nine, and it's very much a callback, maybe on purpose, with the airships of six and the maybe a more kind of not pixelated style, but definitely back to that kind of cute little feeling.
It's
And
funny you say this. My brother-in-law's massive Final Fantasy fan. All the Steel books, and he's completed every version. He used to import the early games from Japan, and he always said to me, nine was that callback to sort of a medieval, more steampunk. They'd done that futuristic seven, eight, and then just thought, hang on, let's take it back again. Let's get a bit
and
more
I'm I'm
knights, get a
I'm
bit more.
grateful they did
Mm,
because like I bounced off seven. I have to admit, the first time I played it, 'cause it was like, oh crikey, this is a lot. And then nine just grabbed me by the skin of my scrotum and just sat me down, and it was like, right, okay, I'm into it from the very opening. I know this is a very iconic game for one of our Discord sheriffs, DM. He's big into nine.
mm.
Um, like it's a very, a game that resonates with him, I believe. And I totally get it. To me, I'm gonna get some hate for this, but come at me because we're all allowed an opinion. They're like arseholes. We've all got one, but they don't have to be the same. Um, to me, nine is the banger for me on PS1. I know a lot of people got nostalgia for seven, but it's hard to love because it's kind of polygons, in my humble opinion. Eight is a beautiful looking game, but the storyline of teenage lovers just doesn't really sing to me. I like the gunblades, I like the combat, but the rest of it I'm not that interested in. Nine came along just as I was about to dismiss myself as a Final Fantasy player and went, no, it's all right, George, sit down. Here, mate, you want this.
Mm.
This is what you wanted. This is that medieval callback. This is the game that you looked at in magazines um with the mode 7 and the clouds and and this is kind of, and it was like, yes, this is right. And I think there was something about the opening as well. It was very innocent. It was very kind of naive. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah, I'd recently downloaded it on the Switch. Just literally like it's just like a resed
Bet
up.
it looks banging on there.
Yeah, it's literally just a resed up PS1 game on the Switch. But I must admit, them pre-rendered backgrounds and the town and that, it looks lovely. And they had
Mate,
they done very well at setting the scene, and it did feel like a little village and town, and
from the
very
start
good.
of that game where you start off, I think the main character is called Zidane or something like that, and you start off with like a candle, and you're
Yeah,
walking around, and it's kind of showing the room, just the edges. There's this sort
yeah,
of like pixelated blackness is there, and you
yeah,
get to the table, and it's like the candle on the table, and you do that, and then that whole pre-rendered world just gets sort of flooded with this light from the black, and it kind of pulls you into the world. It's a very clever kind of
yeah,
a
yeah,
sort of game design technique. On a modern big screen, you're a tiny little dot of color and
yeah.
light, and then you do it, and this would have been mind blowing on the PS1 as an
Mm,
example.
definitely.
You like this little character on the screen, and then boom, the light comes out, and it just fills the room with all that glorious detail. You're like, wow, this is great, and
Mm,
what a great way of getting interact with the game, and then like, draw you in, because that light expanding is almost like your little window of light sort of expanding you and bringing you into the
yeah.
game. I forgot about that, and that stuck with me. I probably over resonated a moment where you turn the lights on in a game, but to me, it was reflective of everything this was
Mm,
doing. I did find sometimes the kind of you do switch from like an almost isometric view to a side-on view to an isometric view to a side-on view sometimes when you're navigating through the towns and the
yeah.
buildings and things. And that's a bit like, for me, that was a bit like, oh God, what's happening here? But I love it, and every single shot is framed well.
Yeah.
Battle system's fun. It's very
Mm,
simple. It feels very raw Final Fantasy IX,
mm.
but I've got no complaints at all.
And I think
Beautiful.
it is. I think the battle system is like that because they literally have almost gone back to their roots again. Basic battle system, sort of a medieval,
Yeah,
old time setting, and away they go again. Like I
but
say, I definitely
it looks
recommend.
dead fresh.
It does. I'd definitely recommend it. I think I picked up on a sale for like £3 on the Switch from the e-store. It's definitely worth picking up because it looks. If you want a bit of PS1 goodness, but has been tweaked a little bit, it's definitely worth playing. 'Cause it does
I
look good on there.
slapped
It
the
does look good.
OG in a PS2 yesterday evening, but didn't actually go in. You can go into the options of the PS2 and improve the
Yes.
disk speed and the rendering
Mm,
of the PlayStation 1 games. I didn't touch a thing and went into it raw, and it was still super impressive.
mm.
So, I mean, I'm probably now about to detail the most expensive way to get it because I can't remember where I was. I was in a CEX not that long ago, or a retro shop. I was, and I saw the price of PlayStation 1, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell price is that? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? It's like 60, 70, 80 bucks or something. It's like, that
Yeah.
ain't right. And I don't know what a copy of Final Fantasy IX is running you to. They've always kind of been this kind of mythical. I remember when I bought a copy of this in like 2004, it was like this mythical 15 quid. I guarantee you now it's still a mythical 15 quid 20 years later.
You can, well, if you don't mind a platinum edition, you can pick it up for 12 quid. But a boxed black label's 18. So
Okay, so
yeah,
and I
it's
remember I got this in Liverpool, and I remember saying to the guy, "Can't you do something on the price?" And he went, "Have you seen how many discs are in there?" As if that matters.
yeah, it's not on disc quantity. They're worth about 10 pence
So
each.
that's why it's 15 because it's like per disc or something. So I was like,
Yeah,
right, okay, mate, fine. If that's what it is, I don't really care. I was only looking for a couple of quid off, but whatever makes your day.
yeah.
You only gave someone a fiver for this, you treacherous snake. Uh, everyone's got to eat, though, Georgie boy. Everybody's got to eat. Um, One of the other games I wanted to talk about, and I did play it yesterday evening, is the original Spider-Man on PS1.
Yep.
I had this originally on the Dreamcast. I've still got it on Dreamcast, but have it most readily available on PlayStation 1. Uh, Look the Dreamcast version out. But the PS1 version, do you know what? It's got a lot going on. Obviously, there's the whole story mythos of the fog on the ground from Dr. Ock or whatever it is, so you can't touch the floor.
Because I think this was out sort of, this is that September time, wasn't it? This came out just
Yeah, well,
after, I think.
it's in our sort of games to play sort of or
Yeah.
games we were playing scenario and Spider-Man, do you know what? Rachel sat down next to me. She's like, "Oh, I tell you what, this really shows you how far in such a short space of time they came with that Spider-Man game you play on PlayStation 5." And I was
Mm,
like, "Yeah, you're right, because this was what technically 26, 25 years ago that Spider-Man for the PlayStation launched, and if you put them side by side, it is super stark."
mm,
But if you play Spider-Man 1 on the PS1 and it's just in its on its own, separate from everything else, you can jump, you can a lot of the buttons are the same. It's right trigger to swing, it's triangle to wrap the enemies up in your web. There's a lot of similarities here
you can
that
see
are
where
gonna
its
make you
DNA's there, and
a
it's,
1000%. And this was the first game that nailed it in the 3D. We've had Spider-Man games before, but they're all sort of 2D beat 'em ups that really did not play to any of Spider-Man's unique skill sets as a character for a game. This one nailed it. Now, if memory serves, this came about from some experimentation with the Tony Hawk engine,
mm,
and this is what this sits upon. You can feel that in it, but that does not hold it back from being one hell of a great web tangling uh, romp, dude.
it was head of an achievement for the tech
Did
to
you
track.
play it back in the day? So this
Yes, I
was
did.
kind
I
of
didn't
poo-pooed a
finish
little
it.
bit as a kid game.
Yeah, no, I did play it because my mate again, who was into Tenchu, was a massive Spider-Man fan.
Oh
He watched
wow.
all the cartoons, the comics, bits and pieces, read the books. He loved the whole universe. So yeah, he had it, and I remember seeing it for the first time, thinking, "Oh, Spider-Man in 3D, this is good." And I liked how they, because you were high up on the buildings, they would use the smog of the city to hide
Well,
down
no,
the
the
rendering.
smog was poison.
Yes, that's it. Yes, sorry, yeah, and it's a great idea, and I thought, yeah, this is actually really good. It looked, for the time, it looked fluid, and the way you could swing your webs and use
It
your webs
still
looked very good.
it still looks good now in that regard if you
Yes,
take it within the era that it's from. But to me, it looks like it's pushing the PS1 to breaking point. I mean, that's
yes,
what it looks like to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They done a hell of a job with that, and that was a brilliant game. Definitely for your PS1 collector, it's definitely worth picking up because it's
The character models like might leave a little bit to be desired from the cutscenes. I mean, I had a
yes,
sick bag with me; it's that bad. But
yeah,
the actual gameplay feels quite good. The only thing is, like, New York does feel, and do you know what? They managed to make the effort of making that story about the smog and Dr. Rock and all that sort of stuff, but it does feel New York feeling like Cloud City, if I'm honest with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
could be
definitely,
anywhere. You're like totally
exactly,
detached from the reality of
yeah.
what New York is. You're just floating around these. Yeah, I mean, if Lando walked in stage left, I would not be surprised at
No, but
all.
these are the sort of barriers they had to sort of work around in at the
I think
time, and they
even
done a
the
great job of it.
original
And
Spider-Man 1 on PlayStation 2, you could see the floor, but goddamn, you couldn't touch it.
mm, mm,
Whereas 2 allowed that full interactivity of the city from memory. I
mm,
might be getting confused with the PSP version, but something in my mind sticks that that first movie tie-in game was also very restrictive.
mm. But yeah, I'll just read out a few notable mentions that were also out at this time before we go on to the news. We had Dynasty Warriors 2 was out. We also had Men in Black 2. We had Pro Pinball Fantastic Journey was out. We had Madden NFL 2001.
Game,
Um,
I've got a game here I want to talk, couple game I want to talk about just briefly.
yep.
We got Sega GT on the Dreamcast. Now I got this.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
It was sort of their competitor, weren't it, to Gran Turismo supposed to be at the
oh,
time.
that's probably what they thought it was.
Mm.
It wasn't that.
No, it wasn't.
When it made its way to Xbox OG, it was that. It felt special. It felt different. Now this one was kind of okay, but the handling was very, very odd. It felt kind of stilted. You kind of, yeah, Sega GT 2002.
Mm,
That to this day is still a really great game.
mm,
There were some things they were doing well on the say on the Dreamcast version with the sort of the way you bonded with your car, but other than that, it just didn't hit. When you were
mm,
driving around the circuit, it just felt it didn't feel connected to the road. And I think that's where my memory of Sega GT on the Dreamcast really sort of got on and got off. I
yeah.
played more of it than I should have because I was desperate for a GT clone on Dreamcast at the time.
Yeah.
But I should not have played that much of it because it wasn't
No,
that
and I
good.
think they then started to realise that there was actually a market for something a bit more serious rather than Sega Rally, Crazy Taxi. There was a market for a more, there was a big car scene with your Fast and Furious and stuff. There was, you
In
know,
this era, yeah, for
yeah, there
sure.
was. So I think they were looking at it that way. And the first one, they didn't quite get there. The second one, even when you look at the back, if you just looked at the back first, you think it was a Gran Turismo game. It's
Hmm.
very similar setting, and you can see why they done it. But yeah, Sega GT and Dreamcast. We also had Tocker World Touring Cars,
Yeah,
another Codemasters great game. We had Mario Tennis. Turok 3 was out in
yeah.
this
Can you
era.
believe?
Oh, yeah, I know. I didn't realize they're even at the third one. Kirby Tilt and Tumble, Game Boy Color. I do believe we even had a Metal Gear for Game Boy. I think it was a collection. Yeah, Konami Game Boy collection, um, which looked quite good. I don't know if there was Metal Gear and a few other different bits and pieces on there, but that looked
Mm.
quite good. Like you say, Real Fishing 2. And also just one last one, Trick Border, which I'd never heard of, and Game Boy Color, but the font is the same as Cool Borders. So I don't know if that's from the same
Mate, that
people.
totally passed me by. I mean, in this era, I was I was a Dreamcast user. I was about to become like a Game Boy Advance user, so a lot of these sort of Game Boy games, I was perusing the shelves around this time to find games to play on my Game Boy Color or whatever it has, and then I think upgraded to a first ever Advance, not the SP, but the garbage one. So
Mm.
a lot of these sort of, I was blown away by how many Game Boy games were in this list. Like I'm looking at Perfect Dark for the Game Boy Color. I had that. It's garbage. Um, and then all these different box arts where you got like Game Boy up the side of it. Just I spent hours looking through that 8-bit tat, hoping to find something that would
And the thing
be
was,
good.
like we said at the time, there was, because of the cost of gaming at the time, a lot of people, and I knew people in the time, their console was a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy. That was their home console.
Yes,
So
yeah.
these developers thought there's so many millions of these out there. Let's label this up as Perfect Dark, use the old Metal Gear engine and chuck that on there and make it look like it's a Perfect Dark game, just so they're getting a version which is nothing like what the real games were like
I
at the time.
remember, obviously in 2000 was when I got my Dreamcast and I said goodbye to my sort of N64 and Game Boy ecosystem. And yeah, even if you were in the Nintendo ecosystem in 2000, the Game Boy was a
Mm,
bit of a deep cut.
yeah.
But it's what we had, and it's what we were into, and
Mm.
it was of the era. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, that was what we would have hopefully been playing at the time. But this leads us on to the news. We've scoured the very darkest back pages of the game and mags, and even delved deep into the interweb to bring you what was the latest stories. First up from Eurogamer, Ubisoft takes over Red Storm. Um, French publisher Ubisoft has confirmed long-running rumors that they are planning to buy out Red Storm, the American publisher slash developer best known for the Rainbow Six series. Following the exploits of an elite international anti-terrorist organization, Rainbow Six, and its sequel, Rogue Spear, have gone on to sell 3 million copies on everything from the PC to the Game Boy. There you go. Red Storm was co founded by famous author Tom Clancy, and as part of the deal with Ubisoft, he has signed up for a new exclusive long term license and endorsement agreement with Red Storm and Ubisoft for all video and computer gaming platforms and products. Expect to see more Rainbow Six games then, and perhaps a game based on the forthcoming Jack Ryan movie, Sum of All Fears.
which we got, didn't we?
Yes, which is also based on a Tom Clancy novel. For the full scoop and takeover, read the press release, which is a link there from the website back in the day. I thought
That
this was
screen grab
interesting.
you've got of old internet there looks pretty
Yeah,
freaking gross.
that was a yeah,
How
some of
the hell, where the hell did you find this?
yeah,
Good God, that's
some
time travel itself.
some of these articles. Well, people. The good thing is, people like Eurogamer and IGN keep all their history on their
They do.
website.
Oh, I have to nod to that.
That is brilliant. So it's great for research.
When
And
you,
like
yeah,
this,
when you're doing research, you find an IGN article concurrent with the time, with the concurrent feelings of that moment
yeah,
about that series or that franchise. It's time travel, and to
yeah.
people like you and I, it's manna from flipping heaven.
Yeah, and I thought this was quite interesting because obviously now we, with the Rainbow Six and the Tom Clancy's and Ubisoft, we don't think too much of it nowadays, do we? But this is obviously where it all started, and I never even realised at the time about Red Storm. I didn't realise Red Storm was owned by Tom Clancy. I didn't realise he had his own development side of games that then Ubisoft come into, and it must have been a long-term contract because it's gone on for years, with all these
Yeah,
games.
I have to admit that I was around this. I was kind of bouncing off military simulators and bits and bobs at the time, so the Tom Clancy name was known to me. It had been attached to sort of other bits and bobs or more military games had kind of had a theming of a Tom Clancy novel, but this original Rainbow Six and Tom Clancy's way of doing it was a real like it's not, but it was a super, super, super realistic take on the Super Army Soldier
Mm,
shooter game. That I mean, I played the original Rainbow Six on what, N64?
wow, really?
I think so. I remember it, the cart, black label, Rainbow Six White with like a red edge to it. I think if I didn't have it, I think my cousin Matthew had it.
What I always remember about it is I've got a friend. You probably seen him on our Unofficial Controller podcast Discord. Speedy Wheels. He's really into Rainbow Six, and I know another guy's into it as well. And you always find if you're into Rainbow Six, you're hardcore fans of it. Do you know what I mean? They have memories of playing through the games and when
Mm.
that got into multiplayer later on down the line and bits and pieces. And I mean, military games were never really my thing then, so I never really delved deep into them. But I always found this story interesting. That this is when you start to see companies merging and when they start seeing IPs and start buying up. You know, at the time, early 2000s, excuse me, there was probably so many different development teams out there, so many publishers, so many different houses. But nowadays, you know, everyone's bought everyone, and it's all come down to a certain few. But this is when I would imagine that those buyouts started, and obviously the license they bought, they went on to sell millions and millions of games, and what they developed with Tom Clancy. But yeah, very interesting, very interesting. What we got next then, George?
Bear with me because I've had to just load this up on a different machine so I can read it because it's that old. It's a bit faded from my eyes on my phone, unfortunately. But this is an article from official PlayStation magazine. Sony expands PS2. Sony Computer Entertainment, aka SCE, has announced intentions to license its PlayStation 2 technology to other companies in order to expand the platform's reach. Sony's plan is to allow its PlayStation 2 technology to be used in non-traditional video game devices. With this investment, we will enter into a new business place, said Ken Kutaragi, president of Sony Computer Entertainment. We'll be able to provide customers with powerful and flexible processor functions in the future. PlayStation 2 may be absorbed into TV sets and the game console may disappear, added Nobuka Ide, president and CEO of Sony Corp. There are no other consumer electronic products that sell 2 million units in 80 days as the PlayStation 2 did. If the console remained just a Sony platform, there would be limits to its market penetration. Sony Computer Entertainment also announced that it, in conjunction with Toshiba, will boost the production of PlayStation consoles from the current level of 500,000 units a month to 2 million a month. My God.
Yeah.
The, the company clearly has faith in the PlayStation 2 becoming a success in the US and European markets, as it has in Japan. Interesting article you prepare and bring to us here. I'm not quite sure how well this took. I know we got maybe a PlayStation TV at some point in time, and
Mm,
some other bits and bobs, but this didn't quite. This is obviously early fledgling days. We're reporting this from August '99 in the UK, where the we were all excited for the PlayStation 2, but it hadn't quite landed yet. And seeing talk of its domination around the world at such an early stage in its life, and the war machine kind of ramping up to 2 million units a month, um, that is terrifying
yeah.
if you're in the industry because it's that level of pain that they can bring that you probably just can't compete with. There's no way Sega were making that many consoles a month.
No, no, it was, and that's why I put this story in here because I, you know, this was obviously just before that, you know, we obviously got the system, um, but it, like you say, from 500 units a month to
Hmm
2 million a
hmm
month, and you're like, what, you know, that Sony must have thought, right, we're on to something here. The
Yeah,
DVD
I,
player is an
I,
absolute masterstroke, and I found it quite interesting that this share and tech. This is
the,
something that, you know, is quite nowadays. I mean, you look at Series X and the PS5, they're very similar internally. But in these days, everything was quite different. And this share and tech, and I thought, I wonder what their vision was for the PS2. I wondered what
well,
they
I'll
wanted.
tell you their vision, and I probably need to do some research off there to validate this one way or the other. But I think their plan was to just make the PS2 be your DVD drawer built into your TV, except
Mm,
bizarrely at the same time you can play games. Um, as a side note, by the way, I decided last night I need to get a and I need your help. I don't want anyone that you're sponsored by. I want the best. No mucking around. Oh, I've got this one. I'm like, I sell these bits and bobs. I don't want any of that. I want the best PS2 wireless controller in the modern era. Is it the Brooks Wingman or no?
And a Brooks Wingman is just so you can play your in that the extension, so you can play your normal controllers on a memory card that you plug in the front, so you can
Yeah.
play. Yeah. Now I again, like I've said this many times before, Retro Fighters Defender, because you get your dongle for your PS1, PS2, and PS3, and it's a great controller. I use that for my PS1, PS2, and PS3 games. It's brilliant.
Send me a link then. I'll give in. I'll roll over and bite the dog.
Yeah, no worries. I'll send you some pictures of mine later on as well. But
Oh, great. In the meantime, this
and a
tech, I
controller.
imagine that they were thinking 3DO. I'd imagine they were thinking like when the Mega Drive got slapped in other
Oh
things.
yeah.
And I just think they were thinking that I think this early in the life of the PlayStation 2, and they were obviously proved wrong because I don't remember too much of this happening. It wasn't like there's not a million TV sets out with PS2s in. There might be like 100 there and 100 here, but not that I'm fully conversant with. And certainly didn't help them reach the market saturation that the PlayStation 2 achieved. It wasn't done through TV sets, it was done through raw console sales
Hmm.
predominantly. So this early, before it's even released in Europe, they're like, oh, we might not be able to get the penetration that we need for this console. So we're exploring sort of link ups with other sort of front room technology
Yeah.
providers to sort of stealth the console in. I mean, it does reek of their strategy of stealthing the console in as another device, a DVD player for Mumsy, and then the bedroom. Then obviously it plays games as well. It's the marketing angle that they were super confident off the back of the PlayStation 1, no doubt about it. But it shows a technology company that doesn't quite know what to do with its second iteration of its very bizarrely successful first console.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you hit on something there with like the 3DO and what Sega did, where they sort of licensed out. So you had a JVC Mega CD and
Yeah,
Wonder Mega and bits and pieces, and obviously you had Panasonic 3DO, and then you had one by I can't remember who made the others.
Gold Star.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. And I suppose they were thinking the same thing. Imagine if you'd had an NEC PlayStation 2, or do you know what I mean? It's
Imagine the world of collecting now, where no doubt some nerds on Reddit had decided that this very rare skew of a Panasonic PlayStation 2 was like the best version to have because it had this special cooling, but it had this room for expansion that the original console didn't have. And because it's coupled directly to a TV screen, you're getting the full raw image straight off the off the processor. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, it's the emotion engine. It's got to be this. This is the only way to play it, guys. As if you're going to play PlayStation, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. And there's no other way you can even comprehend play it. Like, well, funny because I've just lashed it into my TV on composite and I'm having a pretty good time. Oh my God, darling, composite. Oh my God.
Arrest him.
I don't want to touch him. I don't want anything to do with this chap. I don't know who I am. I'm like computer snob, Reddit computer snob.
Somewhere in a
Why is
parallel universe, that's probably what happened. There was a Panasonic PlayStation 2 with expansion bay and God knows what
two
else.
million quid now and they sat on 10 of
Yeah.
them like, oh.
But yeah, it's so weird. I mean, another year down the line from this article, I think Sony realised we don't need to license any bits out. We're absolutely steamrolling.
Absolutely. So it's amazing this has been captured in an official magazine. It's amazing that this has
Yeah,
been publicly said by Ken. One thing I would say is like the Mega Drive started to license its technology towards the end of its life
very true.
to
Yeah.
put it out there. Trip Hawkins with the 3DO set out from day one to say, no, we aren't looking to make a machine, but we're going to license the technology for you to make the machine. It was a very clear distinction from the
Mm,
start. He said, no, we're doing things differently.
mm,
Whereas PlayStation's come out with the success of all the sales that already exhibited, that they were stoked. The current level of 400,000, that had all gone home and been sold and stuck. The success of the PlayStation 1, so already an installed user base there that you can migrate, and there's still early days in the PS2's first calendar year of use. They're talking about selling its birthright to Toshiba.
mm. Yeah.
They didn't
It's
quite know what
crazy.
they had there, did they?
No, and then I think once it released 2 or 3 months later in Europe, and they suddenly thought, oh, why is there 350,000 people queuing outside shops in the UK? Yeah, forget Toshiba. We're all right with what we're doing. We'll be okay, I think. Yeah, and I think they were. Yeah, very interesting. I love these because you look back at PS2 now, and you don't realise that obviously that was a bit unknown at this time. So you're seeing
Yeah,
it from a
like I
different
say, for
side.
them,
It's
it was the difficult second album, so they were maybe preparing to have a fallback plan so they didn't
yeah,
get their arse handed to them by Sony big bots.
Mm.
They were like that fledgling out there on the edge PlayStation department that had got lucky the first time, but there's no way they're going to capture lightning in the bottle twice, is there? Is there? Is there?
Well, yeah, exactly. And then unbeknown to them, that was absolutely smashed it. And it still has, and I think it's still the highest selling console of all time, I
I
think.
do believe it is.
Right, we'll move on to our final article. This is from EGM magazine. Um,
This looks like
Microsoft,
a good article.
yeah, Microsoft shows off its X Factor. Although Xbox is still well over a year away, Microsoft didn't keep quiet about its new console at E3. The company didn't have as big a booth as Sony, Sega, or Nintendo, but Microsoft gave showgoers some first glimpses of its future game technology. Microsoft intends to not only set the Xbox ahead of the game graphically, but also audibly. The demo we saw showed the Xbox doing on the fly transitions between
Hmm.
drastically different types of music, such as rock turning into country and so forth, seamlessly as a slider was moved across the screen by the touch of a sidewinder pad. This sort of technology could be used to add living soundtracks to a game where music smoothly changes according to the action on screen. Xbox development kits are going out to most developers during June, and they'll have plenty of time to get working on games for the launch of the console in the fall of 2001. We asked what Microsoft's reaction was to Sony's decision to incorporate a bay for a hard drive. Kevin Backus, Microsoft Xbox's third-party
Kevin
guru.
Bacchus. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness gracious me. Isn't he the Roman? Isn't Bacchus the Roman god of wine, drinking, and exuberance?
that'd probably answer a lot.
Yeah.
Microsoft's Xbox third-party guru told us all that does is validate our decision. As for what the final version of the Xbox will look like, Backus couldn't reveal anything yet. However, he did use the following terms when describing it: very precise, clean, and high fidelity. We were informed that the metallic silver casing, accented by a green translucent bubble we saw at E3, was merely a mock-up to give the current chipset a presentable look, but should give us a hint at what the finished Xbox might look like. Backus also pointed out that the design of the Xbox, who happened to be sitting in the same designer, sorry, of the Xbox, who happened to be sitting in the same room with us at the time, spent 3 years trying to find the exact pair of sunglasses that he'd want to wear. That's the kind of guy you want designing your console. Really? When when we were
Wow.
asked about some of the rumors circulated about Microsoft buying certain developers, Backus was quick to point out that many of them were bogus. He went on record to say that Microsoft has made no offer to buy Square, contrary to internet scuttlebutt.
Yeah, it's a phrase.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Backus also brought up to the point that it would make little financial sense for Microsoft to purchase a large publisher that generates much of its revenue with products on multiple platforms such as PlayStation and Game Boy Color. Oh how times have changed, and asked it to focus all of its efforts onto one platform, especially considering the Xbox will have a small user base in the beginning. But with that said, he also mentioned that Microsoft has its eye on certain developers. I'm sure that somewhere along the line we'll pick up a company or two. Ooh, you did that. Um, yes, I thought this was interesting because this is when the early days of the OG Xbox was coming out. The
Yeah.
rumors were coming out. We didn't know what it looked like. We didn't know. about the power, but he was dropping little hints,
I've got a few things to chuck in on this.
you know.
Obviously, if I've got the name of the Roman god of drinking wrong, let me know. Community corrections on Unofficial Controller Podcast Discord, or email us at questions@unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com. That's not Flashback, George. Yes, Flashback's part of a larger entertainment platform now. It's part of the UCP. Now, I am sat here staring down the barrel of a gun of being a early Xbox adopter. Um, I got this, I was away at the time, but when I got back, I got one within the launch window. And the proof of that was a message from Microsoft when they dropped the price, where we were given a free if you had bought the console in the launch window. And then obviously, subsequently, Microsoft dropped the price. They actually sent to all the early adopters a game of your choice. They weren't that great games. I think I chose Fusion Frenzy. And I think
It's
you
actually quite
also
a good game, actually, Fusion Frenzy
yeah,
nowadays. It's,
it is if you're into the party games, but if you're a
yeah,
solo
yeah,
player game like me, it kind of begs the question what we're doing with it.
yeah, true.
But I had all the other games that were in the launch window other than Fusion Frenzy, so I really only had
Oh,
Fusion
okay.
Frenzy to get. And I think they sent you an extra controller. Those two things combined kind of equaled the distance in value between the launch price and maybe they dropped it to 3 to 4 months later. So I was there day and day. I'd kind of been hyped by this, like the PlayStation 2 had come out. I'd been burnt historically through gaming. Like I saw the Dreamcast had been killed a bit by the PS2, so I was a bit anti it, even though I had a PlayStation 2. But I also knew that I wanted to try and future-proof myself by getting the most powerful machine. And therefore, this Xbox probably is, if I'm going to get a new home console, I ought to get this Xbox. Um, it I want to also talk about the Chrome design. I think a guy on YouTube recently tried to reproduce that out of his name's Macho Nacho Productions RGT, if memory serves. And
Hmm.
he actually, as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, I don't think they've hewn that out of a solid piece of aluminium or aluminum, as our American listeners might think. Surely that's welded. Because if you grind off the edges and then send it for a polish, you'd never be able to tell anyway. Anyway, Macho Nacho, on the edge of probably hard metal engineering, decided this had been milled out of a solid piece of aluminum. When he got to Microsoft to unveil it, theirs was welded and a lot smaller than his one.
Yeah,
So he had some adjustments to make, but still a really great way to launch your console. Nod to Macho Nacho for making a working Xbox fit within that thing. Because don't forget, the Xbox was called the Xbox because it was going to be a DirectX machine,
yeah,
and they'd basically got the Xbox working out of a load of power laptop parts they'd kind of cobbled together to get this thing up and running to the level they wanted it to. So the Xbox was always a little bit of a mongrel of a console. It's one half of one thing and not of the other. I think the fact that it had the hard drive in from the get-go allowed you to do games of a much larger scope with a lot more slickness than we were already experiencing on the PlayStation 2. A lot of the sort of cross-gen games that I had were better on Xbox. But this was a great start. I mean, I've got to raise an eyebrow that the guy who took 3 years to pick his sunglasses might not be the guy you want designing your console.
yeah. This was very early 2000s, and also if we've read a few of this era of Microsoft at the time, they were quite well. Yeah, I'm just justifying my decision. If Sony put an expansion ban for a hard drive, I'm just justifying why we got a hard drive built in. It's that real
Yeah, true.
attitude coming in.
I
And that's
think
like,
having all this, what probably held the PlayStation back from its full hard drive utilization is it was an accessory. So
yeah,
if you brought out a game that didn't run without the hard drive, I don't think Sony would let you. So they kind of throttled their own advancement. The PlayStation 2 probably could have been knocking on the doors of the Xbox a lot more sort of cohesively if it had been allowed to bring the hard drive in as a mandatory thing.
yeah. But it was still nice to have their memory cards, wasn't it? And take around your mate's house. You
Yeah,
didn't
it
have to take
was.
the whole console. You could just take the memory card and carry on
You could
playing
do
your
that with
tournaments.
Xbox though.
Yeah, yes, you could. You did have the memory cards as well. You
Yeah,
did have
it
memory
was a bit
cards as
more
well.
Dreamcast in its
Yeah.
interpretation of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, oh, and not that many people were buying memory cards because it kind of felt a bit pointless when you had
Mm.
the hard drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So the memory cards, and I've seen probably one my whole life, if that,
Yeah.
was for taking your kind of characters to your mate's house sort of thing. I don't know many games that actually use the memory card functionality even, but
Mm.
yeah, and the last point I suppose that kind of stuck was look what Microsoft can do when they concentrate on the platform that they want to make games for, that they build games for that platform, that they push games on that platform, and they acquire developers for that platform. You know, in Backus's own words, and where is he now? It would make little financial sense,
This is brilliant. This is why I put this in here.
quote unquote, it would make little financial sense for Microsoft to purchase a large publisher that generates much of its revenue with products on multiple platforms. Yeah. Even then, you
Yeah.
got to ask yourself, well, why Microsoft would you not do that? Because you've already said that they make revenue on other platforms. So why not use that as a bankroll and also put out games on your machine exclusively or timed exclusive? But no, 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 no. At the time, they had a mantra. It's all about the Xbox platform, and that's all it's about. And I would say the OG Xbox and 360 did really, really well off of that mindset.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, this guy, I can imagine him, you know, sort of casual suit wearer, one eyebrow up. And just when he was asked, well, what is the Xbox going to look like? I can just imagine him saying, well, the guy we got here took him 3 years to pick a pair of
Mm.
sunglasses. Now that's the sort of guy that you want designing the Xbox. And it's like, well, no, because it's going to take him years and years and years to design this,
Yeah, well, I kind of see it. In 2000,
which
a
is
guy who's
brilliant.
so picky design wise that
Yeah,
and let's face it, I think that comment taken a little bit out of context. He's probably
yeah,
wearing sunglasses, but over the course of 3 years, he finally found this pair that he really settled on because it had this unique design flair or whatever. I think that's what they're saying, but I don't see any unique design flair in the original Xbox's design, if I'm honest with you. I see the I see the survivor of the Chrome X living in the top of the Xbox with the green jewel that sits
just
on
build a
it.
box round
Does look kind of fresh, and then
weighs a
obviously it
ton.
just descends into ambivalence really as you
Yeah,
get down the sides of the console. Um, if they'd brought out the X, it would be the most obtuse and unbuyable thing you could ever have imagined because it
yeah,
wouldn't have fit in hi-fi systems in TV stacks. It wouldn't have vented very well. You probably have had to fold it down anyway, and then you're just looking at a load of wires and garbage. It's a shame that that ethos didn't stick, but
yeah.
um, yeah. So what is there anything in there that you've sort of decided to grab out, RGT? Because I've obviously gone a little bit all crazy there.
No, 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 definitely not. That was a good chat. No, like you say, I back you up on things like, when you were saying about there's not much sense buying large publishers that are obviously development for, obviously he didn't say it in this, but he means competitors,
Hmm.
um, which is very true. And like I say, how the tables are turned nowadays because they're now selling all their games on the competitors.
Yeah, and making good money off the back of it.
Exactly. But I think this shows how early Microsoft and Xbox, what their attitude was going into this. It was quite a forefronted attitude. They were like, yes, we haven't got as big as Boo for Sony or Nintendo, but we're going to go in fighting. We're going to talk a big game. We're going to show what we
Yeah,
got, and we're going to, and I love all that. I
that
love
was
them
very
early.
much a moment of time as well. If you
Mm,
think about it, a company's success over the forthcoming year was designed or decided by the square inch of their booth.
mm.
Like, oh, Sony got the biggest booth this year. Oh, right, okay, it's their year. Sega got the biggest booth this year. Oh, right, it's their year. Nintendo got
Yeah.
the biggest. Oh, right, it's their. Like all of that, such ego drivel, isn't it? You know, it's not
Nowadays, they
about
don't
the
turn
size
up
of
at
the bit. They
E3.
don't even go.
There isn't an E3 anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's all
And
about what you
if we're
release.
now to judge their future 12 months on their last state of play or inside Xbox or whatever drivel Nintendo, whatever
Direct,
they're
whatever.
called,
Yeah,
Direct, yeah. Uh, they are awful. They're PowerPoint bloody
yeah,
displays that we have to watch on
yeah,
YouTube. We never got to go to E3, don't get me wrong, but there was something nice about looking in the mags and seeing what the developer thought he was going to put
yeah,
his arse into by the square frontage of the games.
yeah,
Quite often in a state of play or a direct or inside or whatever it is, they hype them all equidistant, but in reality, behind the scenes, they're banking on a few of them more than the other. There was no doubt at E3 which ones they're banking on and which ones they bloody weren't. And we've lost that a bit. We have
Mm.
lost that.
Yeah, there was, and I used to love, like you say, getting the magazines after E3, opening up,
Mm,
and they'd always have pictures of the booths.
yep.
Then they'd have all the guys and girls in their Sony PlayStation 2 or whatever they were wearing
Yeah.
gear and polo shirts talking to the press. Then you'd see screenshots of what was coming out and you'd see a second iteration of your favorite game coming out. You'd be like, yes, when's this being released? And
Yep.
you'd go out and buy another magazine because they'd done a preview of it or they had special access or times have changed a lot now, but they were very exciting times of E3 to see what was coming. But yeah, some three different news stories there.
Great, mate. Yeah, really good. Nice kind of what I love about Flashback and the news that you grab is that I've said this before and I'll say it again. You go to the concurrent news sources. So we get from magazines and websites at the time the zeitgeist, which
Yeah.
is lost when we sit back and reflect, or you watch a
Mm,
YouTube video where they reflect. This is actually going and grabbing the opinion of the time, and often the opinion of the time actually jives completely against like the modern interpretation
yeah.
of what has gone on. And
Yeah.
some of these stories, dude, as well. Like I challenge anyone else in the internet space to be finding examples where Sony are on about expanding and broadening the PS2
I
technology
bet
into other
most gamers
platforms.
didn't even know that they were doing that. They would have been, no way would they have done that
And the
for.
thing is, they didn't. They either didn't do it or didn't do it to any great extent. But this article here is one of those snippets that's lost to time. Like
Yeah.
they said that they pursued that angle quite aggressively.
Yeah. This is Sony thinking, oh, what happens if in Europe the PS2 bombs? Let's get a
Yeah.
plan in place in case it bombs, and people didn't realize they ever thought like that. But yes, they did at the
Well,
time.
you, as a console manufacturer, you kind of have to prepare for the worst, don't you, and hope for the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
Maybe this was them.
Mm.
Um,
Not only is this like a look at, what Gaiman was thinking at the time, it's also how the writing was at the time. The writing's very different to modern day articles, and
it is.
yeah,
It's
and
slightly more journalistic as well, I think. In something I've noticed in these games magazine write-ups is like games journalism now, there seems to be less sneaking about, more just reporting on press releases
just
and
relaying
rumors.
it. Yeah, relaying
Yeah.
it. In the time, this was the journalist's impression and his thoughts, and
Well, and
sometimes,
also when you read some of these articles, they'd had to properly get their deerstalker on and try and piece together a news
yeah,
article from facts that they'd gathered,
yeah,
which to
because
me is journalism.
yeah, and there's a lot of stories that have. This is what we think. We found out that this might happen. We
Yeah.
looked in to find it. There's all that rather than just relaying a story. So yeah, it's good stuff from the time. But that leads us on to what we call Stingray's boot. What's nestled between some counterfeit nappies and a dodgy copy of Battle for Endor is some of the new releases for September 2000. There was a bit of slim pickings here, but there were some big
Hang
games.
on a
There were
minute.
some big games. Oh yeah,
Oh,
sorry. Go on then.
no,
How are
you
you
say
feeling,
it. No, 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 no. Spring stop wattle whoa.
Spring, stop, wow,
Whoa.
wow, wow. Um,
If you want to invoke the Ray, you got to do it right.
Sorry. How are you seeing Ray this week?
The way up, Ray. I tell you what, I'm seeing him today. He's come dressed as Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's the PS1 version, so he's made it out of boxes, a little bit like those Lara Croft
Oh, so
cosplayers you
yeah, so
see.
he's got polygoned.
Yeah, so he's got a square head, he's got triangular arms, and yeah, he's generally looking a bit of a state, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, he's looking good. Um, Wayne is just dressed as himself, but he's wearing what looks to be a knockoff Xbox t-shirt. He's getting ahead of the game,
Oh,
and he's trying to flog merch,
wow,
of
he is
which,
ahead of the game.
yeah, he's showing me something
Well
from
ahead.
Fusion Frenzy. What's that, little Wayne? Best game on the console? Get it now? All right, put it in the pile, young Wayne. You're looking good, by the way. Huh.
Wow. Little Wayne's getting the old sales up, isn't he?
He is. How are you seeing Sting and Ray? Or is it just Sting you're seeing?
Well, I can't see Sting at the moment. Um, Wayne's here. He's dressed as Kirby, but he's rolling round like Kirby tilt and tumble. He's like a football. He's rolling around all over the place in a little pink football outfit. Well done, Wayne. Very good on piece. But I don't know where. Hang on, there's someone on the roof over there.
Oh no.
Oh, he's just dropped down. He's landed on his back, but oh, Stingray's painted his karate outfit black. He now thinks he's Tenchu, and he's got Tenchu merch to sell. That's why he's got headbands with Tenchu written on.
Oh
But
wow.
he's spelt it wrong. It says tension too. Oh well, but that'll do. That's close enough. Don't worry, Stingray. That's close enough.
Tension sheet.
Yeah, the tension sheet. Yeah, there you are. If you know what that is, drop it down in the UCP Discord if you know what the tension sheet's from. Um, yeah, so let's have a look. I what I'm going to pick out, I think there's a couple of games I want to pick out. One of here is a no-brainer for me, and that is what was released 19th of September 2000, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Now, the early Pro Skater game was brilliant, but one thing they missed in there was the manual, which they then added into Pro Skater 2. So then you could do your tricks, land in a manual, and carry the combo on. It was a game
Mm.
changer in the skateboard time. So Tony Hawk's
It
Pro
was the
Skaters.
start of the ridiculousness, though, wasn't it?
It was, but Tony Hawk's 1, 2, and 3 were brilliant games, and then it started
Yes,
veering
agreed.
off.
Yes.
But me and my mate, Tony Hawk's Pro, he was a big skater as well. So this is right up his street. I was never a skateboarder, but loved the games. And we would play every level till we 100%ed it. We'd find the videotapes, we'd find the skate letters in one run, we'd get the high scores. And we spent hours and hours and hours on this game. And we used to chip in and buy the games together. Do you know what I mean? You'd get this game for £30, £40. We'd go halves each, get ourselves a case of lagers, and there we were, just playing this right the way through the night. Brilliant memories of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and still holds up well today. I mean, it was only about
I
a year
I
ago I put the
need
original
to talk
pros.
about this. I need to stop you and talk about this. Your ability to drink and play video games
Yes,
astounds me.
yeah, yeah.
Because I'm like one can and done.
Hmm.
I might still be awake and talking to you, but I'm remembering nothing of it. So I would come down to Tony Hawk's 2 to find that we'd somehow three-quarters completed it the night before, but don't remember any of it.
Well, the thing with us was, my mate had a tendency to fall asleep before me, and he could fall asleep at any time. So Pro Skater would play, and also when we played ISS. And the reason I knew he'd fall asleep because when we played ISS, we'd play on the same team in a league, and I'd pass him the ball, and I'm sitting there eagerly watching the screen, and his player would run straight off the pitch through an advertising hoarding, and was just stuck against the wall. They're now having a throw in. His player's still running against the wall, and I'd look round. He's fell asleep. With his thumb forward on the analog stick, and that
Yes,
was the
I
same. With,
do.
that'd be the same in Tony Hawk's Pro Skate. You'd be doing a trick, and then you would just see him sort of just roll to a stop, and you'd look round. And he's right, okay.
Wow. Also, I find alcohol sort of numbs my reflexes. So two cans in, I suddenly can't do the bit I was doing when I first sat down.
Nowadays, that's the case. Years ago, that used to enhance me a bit. I'd be like, "Yeah, I can do this." Yeah, used to help me having a couple of tins of
The
beer.
the the liquid confidence.
Yeah,
Wow.
but
Okay.
yeah, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and another one which I haven't played and I've got, which I really want to play. And I still don't think people talk about it that much. Was that sort of Resident Evil spin-off, but Dino Crisis 2.
Ooh.
Mm, mm. There's something
I quite
about
like the Dino Crisis
yeah.
games. They are quite cool,
That's
but I
that sort of
think,
Resi engine
yeah,
dinosaur.
good luck going back to that today. I think you might find that a little bit
The old
raw.
tank controls might be a little bit frustrating,
Yeah, it's
but
still a good game, don't get me wrong, as is the original, as is, it's a great continuation of like Resi in a way, but not. And
I'd
it
love
does play,
Capcom to remake one. Dino Crisis. I'd like them to remake one, not to have the Resis.
it's been rumored for a long time.
Yeah.
I just don't think that even if you revamped it, I just don't know if it'd have that grit that it had.
Mm,
Maybe that's what they're thinking. And it never really gripped like Resi, did it?
mm,
It's a shame. I quite enjoyed the first one, I think, from memory.
mm.
I think I had a bit of a dalliance with two. But yeah, pre-warning if you're going back to it today. It's a bit like I recently put Fear Effect in and was like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah, I've got that up there. Fear of it.
Oh God. So yeah, just a word of caution. But if you go in knowing, is there anything else you're picking out there?
No, I think those two. What about you?
Well, I'm already playing Spider-Man because I got it early from Ray,
Hmm.
so that's kicking around in the zeitgeist. So definitely gonna continue playing that and enjoying that. Tony Hawk's 2 seems like an absolutely banging idea.
Yeah.
Um, for a bit of fun and ridiculousness, I might actually grab myself this copy of Duke Nukem Land of the Babes that he's got
That's a
here.
game from the era.
Very much a game of the era, very much kind of schoolboy humor, probably aimed higher. I mean, this thing's got a Metacritic rating of 37, so it's a hallmark of a good game. Whereas the Dino Crisis I told you to express caution on got a Metacritic of 86, which is
Yeah.
far away from what I would call as near perfection. So yeah, there's an interesting take from me. The game I've just collared Ray because I want to use my Christmas voucher because I want to grab quite a few movies this weekend. I want to grab he's got a cam copy of Bring It On, the cheerleading comedy. He's also got a cam copy of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I'm
Mm.
quite excited to watch. And he's also telling me he's got a US import of Perfect Storm and Scary Movie. Now, any other year, they're bangers, aren't they, that still live with us
Yeah.
to this day? So I'm coming out of here mob-handed with movies. Are there any that you're picking up?
There is one I'm picking up. Perfect Storm's a good one because this is when I first bought my first DVD player.
Yes,
I
mate.
I'd been in my current job. I'd only been in a few years by then, but I then worked up to full time and proper money, and I then started getting decent wage packets. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna get myself a DVD player. I bought it from the co-op electronics department for 179.99,
My God.
and I got myself new TV, everything. I went full setup with my first wage packet, decent wage packet, and I got Perfect Storm DVD, but I also got Hollow Man.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
oh.
that was out in March
Thing is,
2000.
don't get
And
me wrong. When DVD technology was sort of propositioned, uh, in my mind, my slightly childish mind at the time, I'd have thought, well, if I get Perfect Storm on on DVD, I'm going to get drenched. You know, it was the idea that it was going to be that real.
well, I still remember I got that. I got Hollow Man, Perfect Storm, and Austin Powers. I can't
Did you
remember
get
which
like a?
one.
Did you get any stereo system with this TV, or was it just
Yeah, I bought a I think it was the make. I think it was a Pioneer DVD. I bought 179.99 X demonstration model. I got a I think it was a trying to think of the size of the TV, 28 30-inch TV,
big
CRT,
telly for the time?
with a stand with my DVD unit underneath, and I bought a little stack system stereo, which they said, "Oh, this is perfect because the DVD and TV go through it with two speakers either side." And I had it at the end of my bed. I still lived with my parents, and I had it at the end of my bed, and I was just like, put the first DVD in, which the first bit I watched was Austin Powers, and that was in space, and there was like a big Doctor Evil spaceship in
Yeah,
space.
there is. Yeah.
And I remember watching it thinking, my God, this is like having a cinema at home. The quality of it, because my mum and dad were still recording Emmerdale on the video recorder downstairs. Do you know what I mean? So this was just like the advancement in tech was unbelievable, and they couldn't believe that you had films on discs. What's the world coming to? It's left us behind. It's left us behind. And I was just
Oh,
blown
you've kicked
away
me
by it.
twice. That's great.
Yeah, I was just blown away by
I
it.
had
And
a
then
similar experience. I'd just moved into my own place, my first own proper place, mortgaged, a whole bag of tricks. And I think for my 21st birthday or something, I'd like put some money in or whatever. And I'd also like put it all together to get a TV, a stand, like you said.
yeah,
Didn't get the DVD player because I think I'd like somehow got some points from work or something like that. So I had the Dreamcast and the DVD player, so I was right on the cutting edge. So why do you need a PlayStation 2, eh? Uh,
Yeah.
and I think it was Toshiba. When you said Pioneer, it kind of rang a bell, but I think it was Toshiba. So it was a Toshiba TV, similar size to what you talked about. And I've recently seen a YouTube video where a guy got a brand new unopened version of this sort of,
Jeez.
and it was at the top it was like a 3 CD jobby that could turn awfully complicated. That was the first thing to break. Two tape players on the front, and then you could put your red and white phono wires into it and have, because my one came with left and right speaker and possibly a left and right rear speaker or something. So if you selected the right mode, you could get Dolby Pro Logic 2 out of it or something, which was pretty cool. I'd ever really put the effort into setting it up properly because I was young and a bit confused by it. But it worked in some movies to some degree, and in some games as well. It did
Mm,
work. Like Halo was great on there.
yeah.
Halo probably actually was in Dolby Digital as well, or at least
Mm.
the sequel was. But yeah, I was meddling with like late end
Well,
Pro Logic technology, so
I
it was
upgraded in
nice.
the end. There was a 60/40 shop, if people remember those in town, and they were selling a brand new Technic stack system, but
Oh,
it was a little dodgy because the speakers weren't with it, although this was still sealed. And I gave the guy 40 quid. I've still got that system because it sounds that good. But at the time, I had a set of JMO 165 speakers.
I've actually got the speakers, and I guarantee you this. I've actually physically got the speakers in my hi-fi setup that go with your bookshelf
Yeah,
setup. They're wood. The Technics on the front is a little bit gold.
this
I'll
is
get you.
silver stack system. This is.
I think some of them might still have come with the wooden speakers,
Might have done, yeah, yeah. And I still
but
use it. It's a brilliant system. Sounds amazing. And I've still got the JMOs as well. I've got the JMOs and the stereo system.
the JMOs are good, aren't they?
Brilliant. I bought them on finance through my mum's catalogue, £2 a week when I was 15, and I still use them. They sound incredible. D165s they are. Um,
Where do you have them? Are they in your like personal front room setup, or what's the crack with those?
Um, at the moment, as I've been changing around, I haven't got them set up at the moment, but I've been using them right up till now. I've done my living room out, but they will be part of my stereo setup. I just have one in each corner, and because they just sound amazing.
Yeah. The
And then
wider
that's
you
what,
can get stereo speakers away, the wider the sound field
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, definitely,
get them on the edges, but then you got to tow them into your seat like a
yeah.
triangle. You need to be in the center of that
What
audio
I had
triangle.
when I had the shed, I had the couch in the middle down the length of the shed with the screens, and I had one up in each corner on a shelf, sort of
Perfect.
angled down. Yeah, oh, it sounded incredible when you're playing all the old systems through. Because I had everything through the Technics, so all my old consoles, everything. It sounded brilliant. But yeah, that's what I upgraded to
The
at the time.
sense
But
of scale that would even give something like Sonic, because the Mega Drive 2 was
oh
obviously
god, yeah,
the Mega Drive was stereo.
yeah, yeah,
We talked what a couple of episodes ago about your man who had his Mega Drive room.
yeah, yeah,
I just keep thinking about the setup and the stereo levels that that kid was enjoying. That most of us were playing it out the side of a tinny speaker, mono speaker
yeah.
on the side of a telly, pointing in completely the wrong direction. And this kid in '92 had two stereo speakers
Oh.
perfectly angled to his playing position.
And I can still remember his like the different bedspreads he had when he had like the grey one with the yellow, red, and that lines on that had that sort of almost arcade carpet look to your bedspread. I remember he had those, and yeah, brilliant.
Mate, when you said to me about Perfect Storm, and I said I'll be disappointed if I didn't come in sort of soaking wet with seawater,
Mm.
your mate comes into school one morning, sort of August '92, and you're like, "What's all that sand?" Oh, yeah, I've been playing Desert Strike.
Yeah, yeah. He's got two black marks under his eyes like that. But
Absolutely
yeah,
brilliant. Mate, I've loved this episode. Absolutely brilliant.
yeah.
What a
So look,
joy.
like as I always say, it's a little window into 2000, and especially narrowed down to August and around that time. What was coming out. What was already out, what we would have been playing. A few news stories. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're new to Flashback, this is seventh episode, so six others to download and listen to. We've also got our the mothership, which is the Unofficial Controller podcast. Check that out. Is we've just done our 300th episode on there, which is amazing to think.
301 will be out right now as they're
Yeah,
listening to
301
this.
is out,
Yeah.
so there's plenty of back catalogue to listen to there over the years and how the
Oh,
show's
because it's
transformed.
Tuesday as well today, RGT.
It's Tuesday today, yeah. So this is the new day that this comes out every Tuesday. So yeah, go if you want to jump into a place where there's fellow gamers and people who love retro, because I would imagine you like retro if you're listening to this. Jump onto the Unofficial Controller podcast Discord. There's like-minded people in there. We have good times. We have challenge accepted, which has got a lot of retro stuff in.
Yeah.
We're
Share
doing
your pickups, share your
share your
overburden.
pickups. Yes, if there's anything you want to get rid of, we've got a little bit for selling your bits or swapping or whatever you want to do.
Swapping primarily, I think, is the
Yeah,
win-win.
we have a Gen 7 playthrough on there at the moment, which we've just done a vote on, which at the moment we're now starting Sleeping Dogs. So if you're interested in playing Sleeping Dogs to come and join in with us, jump on there. It's a great little place to be. And we've
Hi,
also,
Mike's.
yeah, I think,
No
yeah,
promises.
we might get a George joining in on this. And also, we say Gen 7, you haven't got to play it on Gen 7. There's a PS4 remaster of this. You can't play it on the PS5. It's one of them non-backwards compatible ones which are a bit dodgy on the PS5. So if
Oh,
you've got,
really?
yeah, if you've got a PS4, you need to play it on the PS4. But there's Xbox 360, PS3. I think it might be on Steam, PC, however you want to play it. Just
Yeah.
join in, come and join in. We're playing to there's 30 missions. We're playing to the 10th mission, and then we'll all have a chat about it and see how we're getting on and blah blah blah. So there's plenty going on over there. We've also got the Unofficial Controller podcast website, and there's now a flashback area being
Yes.
added to that. So if you want to check out our shows flashback, you can jump over there. That's the unofficial controller podcast.com. If you've got any questions you want to ask us about
There's
flashback
a
or
flashback page, but there's also your hidden history of
hidden
hidden
gems,
gems on there as
hidden
well. So if
gems,
you're a
and
retro player, there's something for you there.
yes, yeah, there's plenty there. And also, if you've got any questions you want to ask us, me, George, or the other presenters we've got, Seb, Scott, or anything you want to know about the show, or if you want links to anything, you can message us at questions at unofficialcontrollerpodcast.com. Um, excuse me. Ask us whatever you want, and there's always something going on, or we can direct you in the right way, or whatever. So, yeah. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Hope you enjoyed the show. For another week, that's another one done. Thanks for joining us, George. Again, as always. I hope you've enjoyed that, and your research always goes above and beyond. Where you're sitting there for 24 hours straight
I'm
with six
absolutely. I don't
litres
know
of
how.
Lucasade trying to
I don't know
play
how
through.
much more this can go on for, mate. Episode 7, I'm literally a broken husk of a man, and my efforts for the UCP are in the bin. I don't think I'm playing modern games just ever at all at the minute. But it's been a joyous experience. It's a great episode. Everyone loves a bit of nostalgia.
Mm,
Everyone loves to remember the games they played, or at least the stories that surrounded them at their launch. So.
yep.
Dude, I am stoked to be here. Long may it continue. Might need to ramp down the research a little bit, 10%.
Yeah.
But I want to speak for the time and for the moment, and at least give that sort of modern view on some of these older games. So it's
Yeah.
been a joy, and thank you to everyone that's listened and supported the show. It's gone above and beyond anything that we expected in its first month to 2 months of trading. So
Yeah.
yeah, stoked.
Brilliant. Yes, like I say, thanks again, George. Thanks to everyone as well. I hope you're enjoying these. Like I say, you can also watch these on YouTube or the audio versions of them. So they're on there as well. Just go to the Unofficial Controller podcast YouTube channel. Give us a sub. Give us some likes. Look at the old videos that we've got on there. There's a few of them which are video as well as audio. Yeah, and thanks again. So it just leaves me to say, flashback, the games you loved, the stories you forgot. Thanks everyone, and see you later, George.
See you guys. Thank you.